Hello, thank you once again and welcome to my channel. Um, in this video, we're going to continue with what you started in the previous video. So this will be the second part of the project. If you remember in the previous video, if you happen to see it, we discussed about creating kind of an application using just work to show you how the Python list um, uh, how it is used. So the application we are writing is one that could be used by a shop to record items, um, to view items, to display items, to delete items, and so on and so forth. So we're going to write some methods or some functions which could be used to do this. So in the first video, we learned how to do some basic stuff. We wrote three different functions. As you can see here, we wrote the options which displays which the user of the application from where they could choose what they intend to do using the application. If they want to add item or display item or search for an item and so on and so forth, then we write the banner just to display the name of our shop. And then we wrote the main function where we called these two functions. After we did that, we call the main function from here. So once we did that, we were able to use the application. So now, in case you're wondering, I can show you what happens when you run this application. So to run it, let's just type Python list. The name of the file where the application is written is called list.py. So let's run it and see what happens. So when you run this, let's see, yeah, it displays these options. So as you can see, we've got the banner here, the Super Electronics Shop, and then we have these five options displaying the options or the possibilities, what the users will be able to do using this application. So what we intend to do in this second video is to start to write the major parts of the application. So in this video, I'm going to write one of the functions, which is the number one. So this function would be used to add an item to the database. And before we do that, let's go up here and create the list, right? Let us create the list here on the top. So let's call it, because we're going to be adding items, right? So let us call it items. You could call this anything you want though. But in my case, I call it items. So once I did that, so let us find a space to write the first function that we are going to use. So the first function, let me call it, let's declare add item, because obviously this will be used to add an item, right? So let us add item. So let us start by, because what I intend to do is after the user has added the items, the user would be able um to see how many items they added. The user would be able to have the opportunity to indicate if they want to add more items, or if they've added if they are done. Basically, after adding the first item, it will ask them if they want to add another item. If the user says yes, then it will prompt them to add yet another item. If the user says no, then obviously they won't be able, then the application ends. So that's what we are going to do. First of all, let us write count, which will be used to count how many application. Or maybe I don't know if this count is necessary at this moment, but let's see what we'll be able to do. So now let us have choice, and the choice would be y. So when someone someone when the person is asked whether they want to continue, for instance, and they say y, which stands for yes, then it means that they want to add something to the database. So what happens is that this is the option that guides them through. So now let us say why the user, let us use the while loop here. So why the choice, that is why the user chooses why the choice dot lower. It doesn't really matter if it is lower or upper. So we could just ignore the method lower, but never mind. Let us just continue. If the choice that the user chooses is y, which is yes, what happens? Then it will prompt them to add an item or items. Oh, why use dot lower? Let us do this again. Lower. If the user's choice is yes, so what happens? Then it will present them. So our the items are going to have quite a couple of we are going to use a couple of variables here to declare a couple of variables to add some information about the item. So this will be up to you to decide what you want to add and what you do not want to add. But I will just make it to be quite basic. So obviously this will depend on what you want to use the application for. So in this case, like I said, this will be used to maybe a shop that sells, or say, mobile phones, televisions, refrigerators, and so on and so forth. So they will be able to use this. So, like I said, we are going to use quite a basic. We are going to add just basic information here. So, let's say name. So, item name, the name of the item, obviously. Item name. Right, and then what's the next thing that might be important? So let us say the brand of the item, this, this, and so it will be something like item brand. And what else do we need? Let's say we probably need to know how many of these items we've got in stock. So in this case, our quantity is obviously integer. So we're going to declare integer and then input. So, and let's say item quantity, the quantity of the item. And what else do we need? We probably need to add, let's say, the price of the item, which is obviously the most important or one of the most important information here. So the price is going to be float, and the price is float, and then input, and so this one is item price. This is item price. So now, what do we do next? So we are going to find a way to record this piece of information and add it into the list that we created on the top. As you can see, we already have the list declared here. So we're going to find a way to add it. So what we first of all do here is to item. Remember, the list we created on the top is items. This one with the S. This one is items. So here we are going to find a way to add all these pieces of information that we have recorded here. So now, no, okay, but wait. So we are going to declare this item that is a piece and not items. So now let us use this item that we just created now. So this will be item dot append. So here we append the name that we just that the user just added, and then we have brand dot append, brand dot append, What comes next will be, no, my bad. This is item dot append brand, and then what comes next? Quantity. So this one will be item dot append quantity, and then item dot append price. Okay, do we have any other piece of information? I think that's all we've got. So now that we created it, so we're going to add this item. We're going to add this item to the list that we created on the top, which is items. So we are going to add it there. And how do we do this? So we're going to call items dot append. Now we add the item. We append the item here. Okay. So now that we appended the item that we created, so now we added this item to the list. So what do we do next? I'm trying to first of all display information after the user might have added this item. I want the item to be shown to the, or you know what, let us just ignore this for now. So what we do now is to prompt the user to ask them if they still want to add something else, because the user probably has like 10 items to add, 5 items to add, 20 items to add. So after adding this item, it will prompt them again if they want to continue. If they say yes, like I already explained at the beginning, they will be able to add more items. If they say no, then obviously they won't be able to add more. So what we do now is to call our choice, or to call choice again. Remember, it's the same choice that we have on the tab. So we call choice again, and input, and then uh, do you want to add more items? Then the user has the option to choose yes or no. If they say yes, obviously, let me put this there, and okay. So to ask them if they want to add more items or not. So and so for this very video, I think this is all we need in order to add items to our database. So let us see what we've done. Let's take a quick look at it once again. So we've created defined the function add item, and then we use the choice option to ask the user if they want to add something to the database. If they say yes, and then it will prompt them to add all the information they want. So all you need to do in this case is to just see if there is any other piece of information you want to add to yours, just add it there, and create the item and append everything there, just as simple as that. So but in this case, and like I said, that I want to make this video to be very short, so in this case there is nothing else I need to add there. And so like I said, this counter is not really useful at this moment, but we might use it again in the future, but for now it's not important. So now that we have our add item function, what do we do next? What we do now is to call this add item from the main function, just like we call the other stuff. So that's what we need to do now. So how do we do that? Yes. Okay. So what we need to do is to call our function from here, just like other functions that we call. So what we're going to do is, let's use the while loop again here. While true, okay? So response. Let's say we ask the user, uh, integer. Let me just finish this and I'm going to explain what I just did. Um, integer, and then choose an option. Choose an option, and okay, choose an option, and then if response is 1, if response is 1, let's see, I think let me do this. If response is 5, I don't know, maybe. Okay, if response, because as you know, we have a number 5 from here is quit. So let's assume the user types number 5. So because this option here is to ask them what they need to do. Remember, we have this function here where we have different options for the user to choose from. So what happens here is that based on what number they chose, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, if they choose number 5, which is quit, what happens? It's going to print, let's say it will, that means the user doesn't want to add further information to the system. So what you have, what we do, we say you have chosen to quit. So nothing would happen, and then we break out of the application. So what if the user, let's say, if the user chooses something else, response, or if response is number 1, what happens? We are going to call this function add item, and this add item is number 1. Remember? So let us call number 1, or rather, it's number 1. So let's call add item. Let's call this. It's a function, and then else. Let's just keep this here. Else print no option has been chosen. No option has been chosen. Okay, so now we have only one function. So let us try this out and see what happens. Let's save it. And let me scroll up. Okay, so let me run this again. Let me run it again. So, and let's see that everything works the way it's expected to work. And let's see. Okay, so um, let's call the application. Let's call it again. I don't know. This is a bit slow. Uh, let's say Python list. Let's call it again. Python list, and let's see what happens. Okay, we have our options. So let's assume someone chooses number 5. Remember, number 5 means that you don't want to do anything, it just breaks out. So let's assume the person chooses number 5. What happens? You have chosen to quit and nothing happens, right? So the person wouldn't be able to do anything. But let's assume, let's just run it again, and then let us choose the option number 1 and see what happens. So choose an option, let's say number 1. Okay, for this, it's asking, wait, let me make some room here so that we'll be able to see it properly. So for number 1, it's asking the name. What's the name of the item? Let's say the item is mobile phone. And then what's the make? Let's say the make is, I can't even think of something else. Let's say the name is Philips. Philips, do they make phones? I believe not, but that doesn't really mind. Let's say Philips. And then quantity, let's say the quantity, we have 12 pieces. And the price is, let's say, is 88.5, whatever the currency. Okay, you see now the logic. Do you want to add more items? If I say no, it will just terminate. If I say yes, which is Y, it asks me again to add more item. So what do I do? Let me add more item. So let's say television. Let's say television. And okay, television. Let's say what brand? What brand could it be? Let's say Samsung. Oh, I wrote Samsung, but Samsung, you know what I mean. So what's the quantity? Let's say 66 pieces. And then what's the price? The price, let's say, is, I don't know, 198 plus 66. No, we have 2 items. Now, it's asking me, do you want to add more items? What should I choose now? Let me say no. If I say no, let me use lowercase. If I say no, what happens? You see, it's no longer asking me, do you want to add more items? Instead, it goes back to choose an option. So if I wanted to do something else, let's say I wanted to display item, search item, or whatsoever, um, it's going to um, it's going to continue again. So now, because we do not have these options here to like to display item, to search for our item and delete items, since we don't have them yet, nothing is going to happen. But as you can see, now we have we added a couple of items. So our function to add item to the list is working perfectly. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial just like I did. And please, may I ask you to subscribe to my channel, to like, to add comments, and I will be very glad if you did. Okay, so we are going to end this video here, and in the third part of the video, we are going to continue. Maybe we are going to add another function which we could use to display the item that we added, because now unfortunately we won't be able to display them because obviously we don't have the function written yet. So what we could just do now is, since we don't want to add further items, we can just quit. So how do we quit? We press number 5. You have chosen to quit. So our application has terminated. And that's all for this video, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.